Welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. Join hosts Dan Melnick and Qasim Masood as they explore big ideas, limitless possibilities, and engage with visionaries, entrepreneurs, and thought leaders who dare to dream big, get inspired, motivated, and find practical tips for personal growth. Think big, dream bigger, and ignite your potential.
All right, welcome to Think Big with Dan and Qasim. And if you want to go ahead and introduce yourself, tell us where you live and what you do for a living.
Yeah, my name is Jeff Dinser. I'm the founder of Popside Candy. I've been doing it full time for about 2.5 years now. Currently living in San Diego. I grew up in Michigan. I went to school at Michigan State. Our business is actually based in Michigan. I've been out here in California for about 8 years now. I lived up in Napa for about 4 years, and the wine industry is kind of what brought me out here, doing a finance, project management, packaging role. I then moved down to San Diego about 4 years ago. I live here with my wife, my young 6-month-old daughter, and my puppy. So things are pretty busy these days.
Awesome. So what made you want to actually go and start this business? Like what gave you this idea?
Yeah, I've known from a young age, I've always wanted to own my own business. The idea of owning your own schedule, being accountable, for yourself has always been appealing, right? So the journey really started during COVID when I lost my job, in a finance role, really about brainstorming kind of some new ideas, emerging markets and things like that. So I think it's a very common story, I think, during the COVID era where a lot of people were kind of forced to take their careers into their own hands. So I think for the context of this podcast, right, I think I could add a lot of value to first time business owners, right? I feel like I'm a great example of someone that's learning on the job, trial and error, learning as I go, and so hopefully I can kind of add a little help to people that are just starting out or thinking about an idea and how to jump in and make it happen.
For sure. But I guess it's one thing to say, okay, like I want to be an entrepreneur, but I guess like why this business? Like why the freeze dried candy?
Yeah, so we actually have a little bit of experience in the freeze drying industry, right? So to take you back, so one of our core values at Popside Candy is, our tagline is experience a new side to snacking. So to me, that means about taking something you're familiar with, changing it up, innovating it into something brand new. So about 15 years ago, we had a family business with freeze drying. We were doing freeze drying flowers. We were doing freeze drying fruit and vegetables. We were really ahead of the game, about 15 years ago. I think within the last decade, we've really seen a massive launch with freeze-dried fruit. For example, you can find that everywhere. It's a very, very common snack these days. 15 years ago, it was kind of unheard of, right? So part of the challenge, for Popside Candy has been a little bit of education, right? When people think of freeze drying, right, they think of camping trips, they think of, hiding out in your bunker. Freeze drying is a preservation process, right? So as we did a lot of experimenting, we found that there's a lot of benefits to candy. So the biggest benefit with this process, it's going to change the texture. So it's going to go from sticky and chewy to airy and crunchy, kind of melt in your mouth texture, won't get stuck to your teeth. And it's also going to enhance the flavors. So what we really found is we kind of stumbled into this brilliant product that's extremely innovative and extremely tasty, and candy sells better than fruit. So we made the switch.
For sure. And I can speak to that. It's definitely like a very tasty product. But I guess I'm curious in terms of like it is a competitive space, right? Like you're not the only, company doing freeze-dried candy. So what separates you from your competition?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's really something something that's important at the core of any business, right? So competition isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's going to drive innovation, in a lot of ways it's validating, right? So I feel like we were one of the first companies to really do this. About 3 years ago, I found this trend on social media. It was hashtag freeze dried candy. I believe it was on Instagram or TikTok at the time. It was 200 million views, right? Today it's up to 5 billion. So you're exactly right. We've seen a big explosion of interest that's really driven by social media, I believe. So you're exactly right. How do we differentiate ourselves? How can we create a brand that stands out to customers? number one thing that we started with is thinking about, what makes us unique. It's our product quality, right? So at the end of the day, we're a small family-owned business, small batch, hand-packed. Not a lot of companies these days are, putting that high quality product out there. We found that it's very easy to actually deliver a freeze-dried candy experience that isn't so great, right? So if you're not really careful during the process, if you're trying to cut corners, it's going to result in a candy that's hard, that's going to break your tooth. It's going to be super fragile. So maybe arrives at your door crushed. Maybe you have a window on your packaging, right? So the light's going to come in. It's going to have light damage. It's going to have moisture damage. So from the very start, my perspective has always been growing in stages to create the highest quality product we can. At the end of the day, you have to think about what advantages you have as a business, what makes you unique. I was never the person with a big budget, big startup budget, bunch of investors, wealthy friends and family to help me out, right? So I really had to think about, what I had going for me. And that's why we kind of have really been trying to build the brand around this high quality, small batch, family owned. And that's really resonated with customers. I think customers have the choice when they go to the store, they go online. Are you going to go for that big brand made in a factory? Or are you going to support maybe a local family business, that you can kind of connect with the story a little bit more?
For sure. So like, how have you gone about, like you mentioned kind of being like low budget, being scrappy. So how have you
Yeah.
gone about scaling this business and growing this business in that way?
Yeah. Yeah. So like I said, growing in stages, I think is one of probably the biggest advice that I give to entrepreneurs. I think it's extremely, easy or intriguing, right? To just try to grab a bunch of investor money, try to get in the market and figure it out, right? From the very start, I've kind of known that we kind of just have one shot at this, right? So I wanted to grow in stages, make sure we have a sustainable business model, sustainable products. The way that we started was actually doing farmers markets. We did events right here in San Diego, really taking advantage of that large population of tourists. I'm right here on a college campus, so what that allowed me to do is get face-to-face time with people that are trying this product for the very first time, right? There's a lot of education involved. Hearing people's questions, hearing people's feedback was really important to taking that next step into creating an online website, DTC, and things like that. So, I would say the stage was really going from very conservatively, right? Starting out in booths, in events and markets, gaining feedback, right? Utilizing that feedback to kind of come up with this product offering through our website. And 2024 has been really exciting because now we're reaching the stage where we're getting into retail. So we're expanding into retail slowly but surely, making sure that we find the right partners to kind of meet our internal goals. So yeah, I would say from the very start, my vision has always been kind of divided into those three columns, if you will, right? So the booths and events, the online, and then retail. And it's very interesting how each of those sales channels are completely different. There's a lot of different needs. There's a lot of different, cogs, margins, everything. So it's been a very fun challenge to kind of go from each sales channel and kind of grow.
For sure. So I guess like in terms of your online sales, have you run ads? Are you on Amazon? Like what have you done to grow that channel?
Yeah, so we really rely on social media, and that's really an internal team, so we're very scrappy here at Popside Candy. We're a family team of four. So it's myself. I kind of run the company here out in San Diego. My sister actually graduated with a marketing degree, so she handles marketing. My dad is a former mechanic, so he was 35 years on the job. He can rebuild anything. He maintains our machines. He maintains our facility back in Michigan. And my mom's the superhero glue that kind of keeps us all together, accounting, finance, a little bit of everything. So we're really close team. And everyone kind of has their specialty, their strengths, their weaknesses. So we've kind of tried to utilize some of that to create some internal marketing strategies. Really, and like I said from the start, really with sustainability in mind, right? Instead of blowing a massive budget at first, we've tried to be sustainable. So we've grown our social media and our web traffic, pretty slowly so far, just trying to create that authentic connection right? And we find that, before we wanted to dilute, our audience too much, we've really spent the last, year or so really focusing on, the followers that we have, the customer base that we have, trying to grow from there. But like I said, 2024 is a huge time for growth for us. So we're definitely going to be investing into other ways to, drive traffic to the site this year. So exciting times.
For sure. So in terms of your retail partners, like, are you currently in retail? Or are you going to be like, certain states? Like, what
Mhm.
does that look like for people who are looking to go to the store and find your products?
Yeah, another great question. I think part of my growth strategy has been growing regionally. So you mentioned a lot of our competitors, right? We do have some competitors that are first movers, right? They're trying to get into every store they can across the entire country, right? From the very start, I knew that wasn't in the cards for me. I growing to that scale of getting a factory and scaling is just so difficult, so expensive. So from the start, growing regionally has been really important to us, both in San Diego and in Michigan, is trying to just take advantages of, where we have feet on the floor. So we just introduced a new partnership in Michigan through DoorDash. So people are allowed to go on the DoorDash app, get the candy shipped straight to their door. We're about 100 different retail locations, throughout Michigan, California, actually down the south as well. Just utilizing different partnerships with distributors and things like that. So it's really, part of sustainability as well. It means to me making sure that we're partnering with the right type of retailers. When you look at freeze-dried candy, it's going to be a little bit different than a traditional snack. It's going to be a little bit a higher price point, especially when you compare a snack that's not freeze-dried and then a freeze-dried version of that snack, right? So we're right off the bat, we're kind of dealing with a little bit of a premium price point, which kind of eliminates a lot of, maybe traditional sales channels or retailers. So trying to partner with premium candy stores and things like that have been successful for us. And at the end of the day, it's really about the right partners mean we're in contact with the right customers. So we're really, trying to grow sustainably, in that aspect.
So do you and your family, like in California and Michigan, do like in-store samplings, or what does that look like?
Yeah, I've done samples down here in San Diego. And that's definitely something I'm looking forward to expanding throughout Michigan. So part of, growing as well is adding people to the team. That's something that I value, I value a lot is getting people on the floor, getting more samples, more face-to-face time. It's just like me at my booths, right? If we could do that in different retail stores, get that authentic interaction, have people try it. I think a challenge with my product is that it's very new, it's very unknown. So there is education, there's taste testing involved, right? You hear it looks cool, but until you try it, you really don't, you really can't experience it. So I think in that aspect, more samples is the better, in my mind.
So how do you educate somebody? Obviously, like as I spoke about, like, tried and loved your product. I never had freeze-dried candy before. So for somebody
Yeah.
like myself who had never had it, like how do you get somebody to actually, okay, like I'm gonna go out of my way and try this, like as opposed to, as you said, right, the regular candy, which is
Mhm.
cheaper. So
Mhm.
what does that look like?
Yeah, a lot of it is kind of been like the traditional, I would say the easy answer is kind of like the traditional FOMO on social media where, oh, it's a trend, I gotta try it. We don't believe that is exactly sustainable. That to me little is seems like a little bit like a fad. So we've always tried to position ourselves outside, relying on this, trending hashtag, right? So from the very start, we want to highlight the unique benefits of freeze drying, right? So when you see something that's trending online, I think it's very common to just assume, oh, everyone knows that, right? 5 billion views, everyone must know. And I will tell you, it's like 10% of people have even heard of freeze drying, let alone tried freeze dried candy. So, I guess my
Right.
advice to new business owners is, things may seem extremely saturated, and that may be the truth, but I think it's about differentiating yourselves, highlighting the benefits, highlighting your story. So you asked about how we get people to try. It's highlighting the different benefits of, do you like chewy candy? Oh, you don't like chewy candy because it gets stuck in your teeth? Oh, go try this. Or, oh, you loved you loved a version of a candy. Now let's try it freeze-dried, right? Let's kind of have some fun with it. So yeah, it's been a journey, a lot of education, and that takes time as well. So 2.5 years, kind of the time that I put in the company, and now's the kind of time to kind of take a step forward and introduce it to more people across the country.
For sure. So obviously now in 2024, many companies use high level technology like AI in their business. So do you guys use AI? And if not, like where could AI maybe come in and add value?
Yeah, we're very interested, especially when we're talking about small teams. And I think this is, I think we could be a perfect example of what the future of business is really going to look like in the future. I think it's going to be, hiring this massive team of people to accomplish, a set amount of tasks. I believe that's going to be replaced, in some way by automation, which I think is, which I think is a good thing, right? I think it's on humans to kind of adapt to technology, as we move forward. Obviously there are pros and cons, but for us, right, with this small team, extremely overwhelmed at all times, right? So anything that we can automate, whether it's the customer, ordering process, things like that. Something that I've also gotten into as well, and kind of just a side project, is AI packaging has been a very interesting and emerging field. So my background is actually in packaging. It's kind of been a little bit of a passion project for me. AI has really exploded into the kind of the design process, which I think is very interesting. Maybe designers eventually are going to be more of like a project manager that is managing these softwares and these systems. Maybe like a creative director role is kind of where I see AI taking, some design aspects, some branding and things like that for brainstorming and then execution. So, just a little bit of a tangent, but packaging has been always a big interest of mine. And it's just interesting how packaging can affect so much of the business, whether it's finances, it's branding, your COGS, So I'm looking at AI, back to your question, I'm looking to AI to really to improve all aspects of my business, and trying to look at the positives and trying to utilize, this new technology. It's inevitable, right? So I'm trying to, look at how it can help us in the future.
What about AI for like customer service to explain like, like your products to people who aren't really sure what, freeze-dried candy is all about?
Yeah, that would be great application, right? So if you're on my website, say, hey, what the hell is this, right? Why does it look like that? Or anything like that could be very simple, Q&As, which I think that'd be a great, application. And it's really a balance, right? We want to make sure that we're balancing, technology versus human or interaction and things like that. So as far as other applications, I am so excited to kind of learn more about the potential, and because I know I need the help. So it's going to be something that I think can be a huge advantage for companies that are in
For
smaller
sure.
teams.
So what would you say is like the one biggest piece of advice that you wish you knew before you started this business?
Yeah, my biggest, I think that there's almost so much information out there that it's very easy to get overwhelmed. I think the paralysis by analysis is kind of like a theme to my life. There's just so much going on. I actually wrote a funny LinkedIn post the other day, and I'd like to share it. So, as a new entrepreneur, right? I think I wish I knew from the very start just how many different directions your mind is going, right? As a founder, as the CEO or the leader, right? So think about this. Just last week, right? Invoicing, partnerships, social media, networking, wholesale, platform listings, RFQs, warehousing, travel, packaging, so many different directions. It is so easy to get overwhelmed. So from the very start, if I had to do this over again, I would look at how to manage all those different directions, whether it's delegating, like I said, I wish I could, delegate earlier, creating different plans, categorizing those. What I've learned is that this scatterbrained attack is not the most efficient. So from the very start, I wish I would have kind of had a clear idea of kind of what I was getting myself into. And then maybe from the start is identifying my strengths and weaknesses right off the bat. Let's start to delegate some of my weaknesses, from the very start. And I think that would have made this process a lot easier.
For sure. So if we're going to have this conversation again in 1 year from now, where do you see things going for your business?
Yeah, so I think it's continually innovating. Every single day at Popside Candy, we're looking at what we can do unique, what we can do to stand out. For me, in 2024 into 2025, that's going to look like production capacity expansion, right? Growing what we can produce, and growing our retailers is probably going to be a focus for us, but also keeping a mind on these evolving trends of customers shopping online, more often than ever. They want something that ships fast. So to me, it's all about innovation. New SKUs, new flavors, more testing, right? Seeing what people enjoy and don't enjoy, and gathering that authentic feedback. So again, it kind of goes back to my theme at the very beginning about growing slowly, growing efficiently, making sure that we're going to be around for the long run. So an interesting quote that I listened to the other day was about, low sales doesn't necessarily kill your business, but it's all about cash flow, efficiency. So if you have that luxury where you have cash flow and you have that security, really use that time to focus on, what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and creating that strategy for the next steps.
So true. Well, I want to say, Jeff, thank you so much for your time today. We're rooting for you. So if somebody watching this wanted to reach out, do you mind sharing your website, social media, I guess best ways to get in contact?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much, for the platform. So you can find me on LinkedIn. That's just Jeff Dinser, Dinser, with Popside Candy. If you're a new entrepreneur, if you're an existing entrepreneur, I would love to collaborate with you, talk, let's have a conversation. Instagram is at Popside Candy. We're on TikTok at Popside Candy, and our website is www.popsidecandy.com. You can check out all of our new flavors and build your own variety box.
Thanks again for your time.
Yeah, thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.